Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Well, hello, Mr. Mace.
Oh, hello, Stevie Mans. Where am I?
Where are you? Who knows?
I don't know. Somewhere in Canada. I'm just glad the internet works and I'm allowed to podcast from here.
Yeah, I remember this time last year, you were podcasting from green rooms, sometimes store cupboards.
Yikes. Yes.
It was bad.
Oh, that's right. I was in that cupboard that one time. Yeah, it was really rough. And sometimes there was no soundproofing.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. I mean, this is better. We're not keeping as regular as a schedule as I'd like, but it turns out when you're on tour, usually you have Mondays off as opposed to Saturdays and Sundays. Surprise, surprise. Well, happy Canadian Thanksgiving to you.
And happy Canadian Thanksgiving to you.
Yeah, I found out that it was a holiday today when I went out for coffee.
And there were no coffee shops open?
There were a couple open. I don't know if they're like the fancy nice ones. I got a very passable cappuccino and a very tasty peanut butter donut. And that is how my life has been.
My wife told me about some TikToker who has a recipe for a peanut butter espresso. So I'll find it for you. But essentially you take your old peanut butter jar.
Yeah.
And then you make like peanut butter so that you will put your espresso in there and you'll kind of shake it up, I believe.
Oh.
Yes. Sounds good, doesn't
Divine. It sure does.
I'll find that for you. Katie said she would give it to me, my wife, so I will give it to you. Pass on that love.
Would be so wonderful. Yes, but paying it forward. Oh yeah, remember that we're doing a podcast? Hi everybody.
This is not a cooking show.
We're not just talking.
Hello, I'm Julia Child.
And I'm James Mason. And you're listening to Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast. Today's Stardate, I wrote it too quick. It's Stardate 3371010.4. And we're talking about Lower Decks coming into the closing stretch here, episode 7, of season 3, entitled A Mathematically Perfect Redemption, which Stevie saw before me, and you said that Mike McMahon was high.
Is that yeah, that sounds like something I would say.
I think that's the quote.
Yep, I certainly thought he was on something. I have no idea what happened at all.
It's a very weird episode. I kind of like these weird side character episodes, but I was like, this is very strange. Maybe it's just setting something up for the future. Anyway, very strange episode. I don't know how I'm going to run it down except to just tell you what happened. But before we get into that, we got to talk about Patreon.
Are you missing Star Trek watch parties in your life?
You're taking a pause now before you do it. Okay.
I'm trying. Are you missing Star Trek themed cocktails in your life? Are you missing cooking shows with Aki? Well, you can get all that and more at patreon.com/setphasers, where we will give you all of that behind the scenes access and fun as part of your membership. Join us now at patreon.com/setphasers.
I'm rarely outdone for silliness, but you're really trying to take the cake here.
It's taken me 2 years to find this. No, I've got it down.
Okay, I listen. I'm loving it. I think this is a segment people are going to be screaming for. Where's the Patreon questions part of the show? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I have nothing to add to that, so let's just run it down. It's time to run it down. Can you run
for me? Tell me what just happened. Can you run it down for me?
Yeah, it's mathematically perfect redemption. I kind of had an idea where this was headed because we all remember our favorite exocomp, Peanut Hamper, who I always want to call Peanut Butter. But Peanut Hamper had a mathematically perfect name as a sentient, non-biological exocomp. There's a bit of a last time on Lower Decks, or previously, really, on Lower Decks. You may remember that Peanut Hamper did not help save the crew when they were fighting against the Packlets at the end of season 1. 2?
That sounds about right. I couldn't
think it's
remember,
season
so it
1.
must have been 1.
Yeah, that's right, because it's when Shax died and everything. They were being attacked by the Packlets, and they needed someone to carry a virus aboard the ship to get it to stall out so that they could get away. And Peanut Hamper could have done it, but she was like, no thanks, not going to carry the virus. And they were like, what about the needs of the many and the needs of one? And she was like, I'm out of here, and beams away, and decides to, and so we see what happens. We know what happened to the crew of the Cerritos. Now we see Peanut Hamper watching the Cerritos, the explosions, the crashes, the big guy dying, the other ship that comes out and saves the day at the end of the thing. And then Peanut Hamper basically thinks they'll just wait around for someone to show up and take them away from there. Basically won't send a distress signal, even though they could, because they hate Starfleet. And so the credit sequence, instead of being the normal credit sequence, is just Peanut Hamper flying through debris field, waiting for someone to come by. When that doesn't happen, we get a full Peanut Hamper sort of castaway vignette where a different robot, like non-robot robot, has been created named Sophia, and Peanut Hamper's been talking to Sophia as they've been collecting dilithium from all the various little things, and have put together a small warp speed ship. And so they're about to get out of there, and they load Sophia onto the ship, and then Drukmani scavengers show up, and they start pulling things out of the debris field. And in order to save themselves, Peanut Hamper throws Sophia into the thingy-ma thing, and then manages to warp away unsteadily, arrives at a planet, crash lands on said planet, wakes up to discover themselves on a planet where everything has wings, essentially, called Arior. And they were found by the leader of the village named Kaltoris, who welcomes Peanut Hamper and says, we have been waiting for you all this time. And so Peanut Hamper meets the villagers, and some of them are like, this is what the ancestors warned us about. But Kaltoris is like, no, this is the promise, this is our future. And then we meet Kaltoris' son, Rada, this is a archetypal sort of pre-warp Star Trek romance situation. He's just the most strapping young noble lad of the bird people, and he will soon be the leader of his village. But Kaltoris orders him to show Peanut Hamper the ways of their people. And at first he balks at this. He says, I will not be seen messing around with some machine. And then he says, would you defy the leader of the village now? And then Rada's like, no, of course not, father. I will show Peanut Hamper the ways of our people. And so Peanut Hamper is shown the ways of their people, the ways of the Ariorian people.
Wasn't it areoli or something? And I was a bit like, that's a bit on the nose?
But I thought that was just Boimler saying, well, because it's definitely, the planet's definitely called Arior.
Okay.
Or wait, is the planet called Arior or the people called Arior? Is the planet called Ariorlis? It doesn't matter.
You want to Google it?
Let's Google it.
If you can Google that.
Nope. You're not going to beat me. Titan, stress cause, uncharted planet, Kaltoris of Ariore.
Okay, I stand corrected.
In any case, where was I? Oh yeah. Peanut Hamper's pretty super bored with this pre-warp civilization and is getting the usual "come, let me show you something, Peanut Hamper," kind of noble, air quotes, savage civilization. Rada takes Peanut Hamper out. They see a sky snake, which Peanut Hamper points out is a very stupid name for on a planet where everything flies. It should just be called the snake. But then the sky snake attacks Kaltoris, and Kaltoris is dying, and they rush over, and there's the usual noble speech. "'Tis the great circle. I am killed by the venom of the sky snake, and he's killed by my spear, and this shall be the end of me." But then Peanut Hamper's like, "No, this is fine. I'll just give you this quick hypo spray. It's got some extra vitamins in it, actually, so it'll counteract the venom and actually make you much better than you were because you're living, sort of lacking basic vitamins." And then the whole village is so happy that Peanut Hamper, they chant her name, the children, Peanut, Peanut. And then we get this sort of like a flash forward, and now Peanut Hamper is just completely part of the society. So now is this the redemption arc of Peanut Hamper? It definitely has that vibe. They're going by and they're checking on like, "Hey, buddy," and and know everybody, and Rada's definitely giving them longing looks as they interact so well with the chicklings. I don't know what you call baby birds. I'm sure there's a word for it. I probably do know.
Ducklings.
Ducklings, baby
Chicks.
chicks.
Chicks. It is chicks. It's not chicklings. I think you're mixing chicks and ducklings.
Chicklings. I'm gonna go with chicklings. Strawberries. And yes. So they have that typical arc there when Rada and Peanut Hamper are going to fall for each other. He says, "Let me take you somewhere and show you something." And they fly, and he sings to her in his voice. And they go to look at a sunset or something. I forget what it is. And then there's a whole, you belong here, and then he's like, "You've treated everyone on this planet but one." And the Peanut Hamper's like, "Maybe we should start with the physical. Bow chicka wow wow." And then they do a weird thing by a waterfall, which I assume is some sort of coital act. And then I should have counted the number of times that Rada says, "I want to show you something." Because then he once again says, "I want to show you something." And takes Peanut Hamper down into a cave to show the true history of the Ariore people, which is that they used to be spacefaring, but they fought in too many wars in the times past, and things got crazy, and there's this old cavern with all the old ships and tons of old technology and cave sort of wall painting stuff on the walls. I guess the advanced society speaking to the less advanced society, that they gave up technology and decided to live an agricultural life in order to not interact with all the conflict they found in the stars. And then Peanut Hamper, when Rada's like, "Oh, you're so great, you're so wonderful, that's why I want you to know that and stay here forever," Peanut Hamper's like, "Oh no, I'm terrible, I ran away from my friends and I can never forgive myself and never forget what I did." And then Rada's like, "Maybe I can make you forget." And then once again they bounce chicka wow wow in the cave. Flash forward, I think, a year based on the seasonal montage, and it's the wedding day of Peanut Hamper and Rada, and they're getting married there in the square with all the people surrounded by them. And lo and behold, I turned to page 2 of my notes. I wrote them on paper because I was on a bus. The Drukmani attack, and they show up and they say, "Hey, as long as you don't interfere, we're going to take all that stuff that's underneath your planet. We're going to take all that stuff. We declare it salvage." And the people of the planet are like, "No, if you take that stuff, the trees that we nest in will be destroyed." And so the Drukmani attack, and they start taking the ships by force using tractor beams, which causes the tree cities to sort of start to fall, and everything's going crazy, and people are getting hurt. And then Peanut Hamper says, "There is something I can do." And so Peanut Hamper sends a distress signal to the Cerritos, and that's where we get our first view of the Cerritos crew. And they're flying around, and that's Mariner says, "Hey, we're getting a distress call from Peanut Hamper," and that's when Boimler says it's on a planet called Areolis, which is pre-warp, and it's a sort of first contact kind of situation. But Captain Freeman's like, "I want to talk to our wayward ensign." They haven't forgotten what Peanut Hamper did, leaving them in the lurch back in the day. So they had maximum warp towards the planet. Peanut Hamper, meanwhile, gets aboard one of the ships and flies up to the Drukmani ship and disables them and does it all super heroically. And the Cerritos arrives just in time to see this brave heroic sacrifice. The shuttle explodes, and Peanut Hamper has managed to stop the Drukmani from attacking the planet anymore, and everyone thinks that Peanut Hamper is dead, but then Peanut Hamper shows up floating out of the sky. They just made it, and the Aeorians cheer, and the Cerritos crew beams down to the surface, and they're not angry. They want to praise Peanut Hamper for the great work that they did. And Captain Freeman even offers Peanut Hamper, oh boy, my words. Killer Romulan warrior nuns. Captain
Killer
Freeman.
warrior Romulan nun.
Killer warrior Romulan nuns? Not killer Romulan warrior nuns?
Killer warrior Romulan nun.
Killer warrior Romulan nuns. Definitely starts with killer and ends with nuns. I don't remember what
Killer warrior Romulan nun.
Killer warrior Romulan nuns.
Killer Romulan
warrior nuns.
I mean, that's
Which one's harder to say?
I think if it's a great, test if you were to do it one way and then the other.
Killer warrior Romulan nuns. Killer Romulan warrior.
And then again.
Where was it? A killer wobble wibble wobble. Captain Freeman offers Peanut Hamper their position back on the Cerritos. Now that's a warm up. But Peanut Hamper is like, "No, I couldn't possibly. I found my place here among these people. I couldn't leave." And Rada, and then Rada's like, "No, you belong among the stars. I shall go with you. Captain Freeman, would it be too much for me to go?" And the Peanut Hamper says, "Oh, that would be wonderful if allowed, for anywhere that you are is paradise, Rada." And then the Drukmani show up because they've now taken some of the Aeorian ships, and they start to attack the village. And they're about to head up to space to attack the Cerritos. The ship has weapons that the Cerritos has never seen before. Excuse me, that the Cerritos has never seen before, and everyone's going crazy. Then they contact the Cerritos and they say, "We actually have been lied to. We were sent a subspace communication that we could come here and take all these ships, and these people won't let us do it." And so they're the ones who are at fault here. And they go, "What, for real?" Like, "No, we got a subspace communication. We recorded it." And they're like, "What?" And the subspace communication is, of course, the newly redeemed and now newly maligned Peanut Hamper. Oh, come on. The now newly maligned Peanut Hamper saying, "Hey, man, they have all this cool stuff, and these tree-kissing bird weirdos are not going to use it, so you guys should come on and take it. They won't put up any resistance." And so Peanut Hamper reveals that they set the whole thing up. They brought in the Drukmani, and they offered them the stuff, and then they wanted them to attack so that they could save the day, and the Cerritos could watch, and then offered them their position back so they could get off the backward planet they didn't want to be at for so long. And then the Drukmani attack in earnest again with these weapons that no one's ever seen, and things are really getting screwed up. And Peanut Hamper bails once again on everybody, refusing to save the day. But it is Rada, the noble warrior, who goes down to one of the ancient ships and he says, "For our people," or something to that effect, and takes the big ship up into space, and he fights the other Aeorian ship and knocks them out of the sky and saves the day. And then at the end, he's like, "We must embrace our future," and all the Aeorians agree. And then Peanut Hamper tries to return and say, "Hey, we did it." And they're like, "No, you can't come back here." And then Peanut Hamper tries to rejoin Cerritos, and Captain Freeman's like, "No way, you suck." And then Peanut Hamper's like, "This screwed up. I should have called the Borg." And then they start to try and call the Borg. And that's when Tendi and Ransom step in, stop them. And the last scene is Peanut Hamper being put in the prison at the Daystrom Institute on Earth, only to find out that right next door is our good friend Agamus, who says, "Ooh, we could do terrible things together," or something to that effect. And then they laugh maniacally, and then all the other super intelligent computers are laughing maniacally. And there endeth episode 7 of season 3. Thank you. Of season 3 of Star Trek Lower Decks, entitled "A Mathematically Perfect Redemption." Let's chat about that.
I say, darling, let's do a quick chat about that.
Yes, let's do.
Well,
Oh, you were looking at me there. Yes. Not my favorite. In fact, I would go so far as to say as worst episode so far ever.
a very strange episode. I didn't hate it though.
I did.
You hated it.
I did. I really did. I wish I could have liked it, but I just didn't.
Well, it's a weird thing. I always feel like maybe part of it is like paying homage to Star Trek, that there's always, it's for me, an episode. So this is meta. There's always an episode where you're like, oh, this episode, we're gonna do this in every season of Star Trek.
Sure.
And this was that. This had that feeling to me. It was like, oh, I don't care about this. Get us back to the Cerritos.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But so why do it? Why potentially, like, I don't know. I mean, Star Trek original
yeah.
was, I don't know. I don't think it hadn't really picked up its fan base until years after it was on air. It was really only in syndication that it picked up that. So I think had they really been paying attention to what people were saying when it was on, I don't know. I think maybe I don't even know what the fan base was like at that point. But I think if they had done it in hindsight, I'm not sure they would have done those crazy episodes. And I don't know that TNG really had that many of them either. There was maybe one. There was maybe that one where Picard, and that's a really loved episode, the one where he went down and learned the flute and died and whatever.
Yeah, but that was a beautiful episode. I'm thinking more episode. Yeah, the Way Forward. What's that one called? The Flute Happy Towns. I can never remember the names of TNG episodes. There's too many of them.
The Flute Happy Towns.
Winkle Dinkle Snort. No, I think that there's like episodes where you're like, we're gonna go to, Kronos, and who cares? It's like there'll be a legal battle on Kronos for Worf's the honor of the House of Mog, which, like, in the long run, I'm thinking about back in the day when you had to watch it once a week, and you're like, all right, gonna watch Star Trek TNG. It's gonna be a great ep. And then they're like, and you're not hanging out with your friends this episode. Worf's gonna go fight to his brother for ownership of the house, and you're like, what?
Fair.
No. So that had that vibe for me, but I guess I also thought maybe they were trying to set up like a Agamus supercomputer jailbreak thing.
Yeah. I just wish that had been more of a subplot than the actual full-on plot where you never saw any of the other characters until 5 minutes before the end.
Yeah. It was very silly. It was a silly episode, but it's a 30-minute cartoon. They can only do so much. Yeah, but there were no B, no CB plot. But I've looked ahead at what the next episode is called.
Oh, you have?
So I know that we're getting right back. Yeah, for once, I know what the next episode is called at the time of taping. And it looks like we're going to get right back into the thick of the shit. The thick of the shit?
Sure. Do you want to? Well, we can go to next time and talk
That's
about
for
that.
next time. But I'm just saying, I'm glad. Yeah, we're watching. Yeah, these episodes come out once a week. It's like it was back in the day. You can't binge them. So you're like, the episodes you don't like really are going to kick you in the teeth.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I don't have any Easter eggs because I was just like, there weren't really any.
No, the only
fun.
thing I caught was Peanut Hamper at the end says you're like the.
Oh, Agamus.
No. Before that. Oh God, it's such a deep cut, and I don't look up Easter eggs. Peanut Hamper calls the Aorians bootleg avians, which is like a TOS, maybe even like an animated series TOS thing. There's like a bird planet or whatever. So that was the only Easter egg I caught, I'm sure. And then I think the bigger Easter egg is the pre-warp civilization. Now let me show you something. Peanut Hamper, come with me. There's something I must show you. Come with me. There is work to be done. Come, I must show you something. It happened like 25 times in this episode. It always happens on this. Everything's great on this bucolic planet, and then they fall in love, and someone's like, Picard, come. I must show you something.
Let's go to quotable moments, shall we?
Okay, let's go to quotable moments.
Quotable moments.
I want to forget about this episode.
I didn't write down any of the times he says, come, let me show you the things. But he says it 45 times. I have 3 or 4. Let's see. Peanut Hamper says to... oh, God, I didn't write that guy's name. Hey, blank, those stomach worms clear out? Oh, yes, my fecal matter is back to being oily and white. Great, but also gross. And, oh, there was one cool moment. I don't know if you didn't like it. I thought this was a pretty sweet line before I realized that Peanut Hamper was lying to us. This is what happens to you, right? It's Rada says to when Peanut Hamper's like, I'm gonna go, there's something I can do. He says, Peanut, it's too dangerous. And then Rada says, Peanut Hamper says, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, baby. And then Rada says, but you aren't even a few, you're just one. And then Peanut Hamper says, no, I'm Starfleet. No, you don't like that?
All right.
That's a pretty good line.
It's a pretty
It's
good
too bad
line.
it was bullshit, but it was a pretty sweet moment. I was like, hey, Peanut Hamper fully gets it.
That line was on a mathematically perfect redemption. Ha! As far as this episode goes. Oh, burn. Yeah. So.
Ooh, that stings.
Oh, look at you, Stamets. Well, are you going to hit some news now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, fine. Go to the news.
News from around the galaxy.
So much news. Aki, we sadly missed New York City Comic Con. And I'm very upset because I didn't get tickets this year. And then they announced that the entire TNG cast was reuniting for the first time in like 30 years.
Yeah.
Then, of course, I couldn't get tickets.
Yeah.
So I was very upset. Anyway, there was just lots and lots of Star Trek news. Okay, so let's start off with some Janeway news. So most of this news focuses on Kurtzman and Terry Metalis. So Kurtzman was asked directly about a Janeway live-action spin-off, and here's what he said. Things have been talked about, that's all I'm going to say, but nothing would make me happier than to bring Janeway back. I think it would be an incredible, incredible thing to do. There might be an idea in play, but who knows? But I would love for it to happen. Kurtzman also confirmed that there are 2 female-led new Star Trek shows in the works right now. 2, I assume, replace Picard as it falls off the schedule at the end of this next year in spring, which would be exciting. I don't know what the other one will be. I don't know if it will also be live action or not.
I love that they're like this new model of streaming where they're like, we got to have something every season.
Yeah.
They're like, Picard's ending, so we've got to get 2 new episodes, which is great. Hopefully one is the Michelle Yeoh thing. But,
yes, that is you must be correct. One of them must be the Michelle Yeoh one. So what could the other one be? Could it be Janeway and they're just keeping mum about it?
Oh, it could be the Janeway thing. Or it could be the 7 Rafi thing.
Oh, yes, you're absolutely right. I think it is the 7 Rafi
kind of
thing.
Makes the most sense
Yeah.
spin-off. But we'll see how Picard season 3 goes.
Yeah, poor Kate Mulgrew. She 7's getting so much... Oh dear. Anyway, he also said that quality over quantity is what he's focused on, and that he and Rod Roddenberry are in agreement. He said, I think the answer is that we will put on as much Star Trek as we feel is possible maintaining the franchise in a way where it doesn't feel like there's a whole corporate hand that's moving it into position for an outcome goal. And so to me, when I hear a great Star Trek idea and my partners Rod and everybody who I work with hear it and go, that feels like a great Star Trek show, and you know it right away. You know why? Because you don't have to intellectualize it. You don't have to convince yourself. You hear it and go, that's it. So quality over quantity. I think when he said, in respect to other franchises, clearly he's talking about Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. And Marvel.
And Marvel, clearly.
Yeah.
Sir Pat Stew is urging for a new TNG movie. He said, to the Paramount people in the room, we could still make a movie.
Wild.
I know, right? But anyway, so Star Trek Picard executive producer and showrunner Terry Matalas said, gave us the news that there are 3 villains for season 3. He also said, what was the point of that? Terry Matalas was, Kurtzman said of Terry that he was so in love in the most beautiful way with the idea of saying, I want to see that last next-gen movie. That movie I never got to see, but let's tell that story over 10 episodes and make it one big blowout. So I don't know if we'll get a TNG movie based on that, but who knows? I don't know. So we also found out that we've got our 3 new villains. The main villain is Vadik, or is it Vadich?
I don't know.
Who knows? An alien character played by Amanda Plummer.
Yes.
Who looks very evil, which looks great.
Right. Scarification stuff, yeah.
Indeed. The second is Daniel Davis returning as Professor Moriarty.
Holding a gun in that trailer. Hello, my friend.
Indeed. And some of you may remember him as the butler from The Nanny.
Some of you may remember him
Some of
as
you.
the butler from The Nanny. Some of us do very much remember him as the butler from The Nanny.
Exactly. And the third villain, according to Metalis, is Lore, Data's evil android brother, played by, of course, Brent Spiner. Like, we could let Brent Spiner go.
Can't let Brent Spiner go. Come on.
Yeah, that must have been, I think, the biggest reveal of the Picard teaser trailer, given that Spiner was not part of San Diego Comic-Con character teaser released in July. But it appears that there may be more to the story than simply the return of Lore, according to Brent Spiner. And Terry Matalas jumped in to add some context during the interview, and he said, if you're familiar with the movie Crimson Tide, then you might understand tactically they may have a difference of opinion in this situation with Amanda Plummer. And I think he was talking with regards to Riker and Picard's kind of difference of opinion.
Oh, so yeah, because there was that scene in the trailer where they're like, are they attacking each other? What's going on there? Kind of deal.
Dunno.
Where they're like following each other in a cloud. So I wonder if they're doing like do we use the quantum nukes or whatever? I don't know. Yeah. All right,
We'll see. LeVar Burton is blessed to have had Terry McCallis, who loves the cast, and of course, Burton's own daughter is joining the cast as his on-screen daughter, Mika Burton.
Yes, Mika. Yes. Big in the D&D world.
Yes, exactly. And he said that he was delighted to have Geordie back with a family. He said, I thought it was a long time wrong that Geordie was never involved in a healthy relationship. And I'm happy to report that when we meet him, he's not only married, he has 2 daughters, and they have followed him into the family tradition.
And it's not that doctor that he has that weird relationship that we see
Dr. Andrea somebody?
Ooh.
Barton? No, that's Barton. We'll come back to that. Michael Dorn on Worf. We're delighted that Worf is back. I love Worf. He said Worf is on a journey. He's always been on a journey. I think Worf is going to get a very different storyline. He said, I think that we will recognize a lot of Worf and we won't recognize a lot of Worf, which is wonderful. I love that in terms of an actor. So, who knows? What was it? Gates McFadden said that Crusher had been off somewhere in the universe for the last number of years on a sort of Doctors Without Borders kind of crusade, and obviously she's in a bit of trouble, and that's where we're going to meet her in this new season, which is exciting. I think that's everything that I had. So lots of news in terms of Picard. We had some teasers about what's upcoming. I think the disco trailer was also released as well.
It was
so getting a new look.
Not informative, just stuff.
Just teasing. And so I believe that will be coming out more late spring, early summer of 2023 if we have Picard February 16th. So 10 weeks after that, plus an extra couple of weeks for them to get ready. So that's my guess is sort of May.
Although sometimes they overlap.
Sometimes.
Sometimes
But I think that's when they had a lot of Trek. I feel like now that we're losing Picard, we might not have as much Trek. Who knows? We'll have the new season of Strange New Worlds next year. So it'll be Discovery and Strange New Worlds next year. And I think, coming up in a couple of weeks, we've got the second half of Prodigy Season 2. So lots in the works. Any final thoughts?
I'm so excited and I just can't hide it. I'm about to lose control and I think I like it.
Oh dear. Well, that's all from the news. Shall we move on to next time?
We go to next time.
Next time on Set Phasers.
Yeah, that's right. Next time on Set Phasers, we're talking about episode 8 of season 3 of Star Trek Lower Decks, entitled Crisis Point 2. What? Yes, Crisis Point 2 Paradoxus.
Yes.
I wrote, you can tell I wrote Crisis Point 2 Redemption Paradoxus. That's not right. I just got confused. Yes, if you liked what you heard on today's episode, please find more of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts from. We've got dozens and dozens of episodes about Picard, Discovery, Lower Decks, something Strange New Worlds, and other things I'm probably forgetting as well. So you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and please, rate and subscribe if you can. That would be great.
Please do, and of course, as you know, you can follow us on patreon.com/phasers for more cooking shows, more behind-the-scenes access, watch parties and the like. Patreon.com/phasers.
Also, Set Phasers podcast on our socials, and
Well, I'm Stevie Mans. See you next time.
Wait, and I'm Agamus, and I think you and I could do awful things together. And this has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Computer. End program.